A damp, heavy fog rolling off the River Thames. The hollow, uneven echo of footsteps on a wooden bridge. A quiet, unassuming man in a poorly fitting overcoat, stepping reluctantly into the shadows of betrayal.
It really is the absolute essence of a Cold War night, the kind of atmosphere where, well, the line between loyalty and treason just gets completely swallowed by the dark.
Yeah, it sets the perfect mood. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a fascinating stack of sources you provided, historical notes, literary critiques, and, of course, John le Carré's brilliant 1961 debut novel, Call for the Dead.
Right, his very first one.
Exactly. And think of this as our own private book club. For our time together today, we have three clear goals for you. First, we're going to explore what this source material is actually about, which is a supposed suicide that unravels a tangled, devastating web of espionage.
A really messy web.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Second, we'll look at why it matters. I mean, this is the story that completely redefined the spy genre, right? Stripping away that glamorous fantasy to expose the real psychological and moral toll of the work.
It really did change everything.
It did. And third, we're going to examine the ideas that invite our discussion here. Loyalty, betrayal, and the tragic consequences of ideological dreams.
It's a profoundly heavy text to dive into, especially when you consider the historical context. I mean, we're looking at this post-World War II landscape where those clear-cut, supposedly noble battle lines against fascism have just dissolved.
Right into this murky, paranoid Cold War reality.
Exactly. The world is exhausted, Europe is partitioned, and the people fighting in the shadows are carrying an immense amount of unhealed trauma.
Okay, let's unpack this by meeting our protagonist, George Smiley. Because if you have an image in your head of, a glamorous, tuxedo-wearing, martini-drinking spy...
Just erase it right now.
Yeah, you need to completely erase it. Smiley is the absolute anti-Bond. The source material describes him with brutal precision. He is short, he is fat, and he spent a lot of money on a really bad clothes.
Oh, the clothes.
Yes, the text says they hang on him like, and I love this exact phrasing, a skin on a shrunken toad.
It's such a harsh description, but it works perfectly because the superficial world looks at him and sees someone entirely dismissible.
Right, completely overlooked.
Yeah, and the high society gossip surrounding his personal life just reinforces that. I mean, he marries this beautiful, vibrant aristocrat, Lady Anne.
But that doesn't last, does it?
No, not at all. She leaves him after just 2 years for a Cuban motor racing driver. And the cruel joke circulating among her friends is that Smiley looks like a bullfrog in a sou'wester.
Which is such a vivid, cutting insult if you know what a sou'wester is. It's one of those floppy, bright yellow, waterproof hats that fishermen wear.
Right.
So imagine a squat, grumpy frog stuffed into a droopy rain hat. It is designed to strip him of absolutely all dignity.
But beneath that tragic, frumpy exterior is a brilliant, highly clinical mind.
Oh, absolutely. The notes dive into his background. Smiley spent the 1930s as an academic in Germany, ostensibly lecturing on Keats, but secretly he was talent spotting for British intelligence.
What's fascinating here is how Smiley's mind operates, particularly the mechanics of what he calls his chameleon armadillo interview technique.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, it's a method designed to beat any inquisitor, and it relies entirely on that unassuming appearance of his. When he plays the chameleon, he takes on the exact social, political, or intellectual color of the person he's speaking to.
Right, he subtly mirrors their tone, feeds their ego.
Exactly. He lets them see their own reflection in him, so they just completely drop their guard.
And if mirroring them doesn't work, he suddenly pivots to the armadillo. He rolls up his defenses and forces the other person into an incongruous, absurd position in their own mind.
Yeah, he creates this sudden, jarring conversational shift that throws them completely off balance. It gives him total psychological superiority.
And he evaluates human beings and their agent potential with this chilling, bloodless detachment.
That clinical detachment is exactly what makes Smiley so effective, though. He views people not as friends or enemies, but as complex puzzles to be solved or assets to be managed.
But he secretly hates it, doesn't he?
He really does. He hates the falseness of his own life. He shrinks from the temptations of friendship and loyalty because, in his profession, those things aren't comforts. They're lethal liabilities.
I have to push back on the idea of this detachment as a pure asset, though.
Yeah.
Looking at Smiley's life, His ability to blend in and hide his true self doesn't feel like a superpower to me.
No.
No, it feels like the exact flaw that destroyed his marriage and his own capacity for happiness.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so good at analyzing human behavior that he's completely forgotten how to participate in it.
That is the tragic duality of George Smiley right there. He relies on objectivity to survive, but it leaves him profoundly isolated.
Yeah.
He is a man who has entered middle age without ever really being young, and that internal conflict is put to the ultimate test when the bureaucracy he serves tries to bury a glaringly obvious lie.
Which brings us to the inciting incident, the catalyst that drags Smiley out of his bureaucratic rut. It starts with a man named Samuel Fenton, a high-ranking Foreign Office official.
Right. Someone writes an anonymous letter accusing Fenton of being a Communist Party member back in his university days at Oxford.
So Smiley is sent to conduct the security interview. But he intentionally makes it highly informal. They literally go for a walk in St. James's Park, watch the ducks, and then grab coffee in a local espresso bar.
Sounds pretty pleasant for a security interrogation.
Exactly. Smiley practically tells Fenton not to worry, that the accusation is flimsy and he's going to be completely cleared.
It was meant to be a routine closure to a minor administrative headache, but the very next night, Fenton is found dead at the bottom of his stairs.
Beside a typed suicide note claiming his career was ruined by Smiley's security interview.
Which is wild.
Yeah, and the bureaucracy's reaction to this is immediate and very telling. Smiley's boss, Maston, who is wonderfully described in the text as the head eunuch, he desperately wants to sweep the entire tragedy under the rug.
Because Maston is the ultimate bureaucratic survivor, his priority isn't the truth. His priority is optical management.
Pure PR.
Exactly. He wants the death ruled a clean suicide immediately to avoid any political embarrassment, public scandal, or blowback on the intelligence department. So he just commands Smiley to write up a sanitized report and close the file.
But there is one crucial, illogical detail that stops Smiley in his tracks. The local police inspector casually mentions that at 7:55 p.m., the night he died, Samuel Fenton called the local telephone exchange to request an 8:30 a.m. wake-up call for the following morning.
Right.
And let's think about how telephone exchanges worked in the early 1960s. You didn't just tap a screen on your nightstand. You had to pick up a receiver, speak to a human operator, and formally schedule the alarm.
It's a very deliberate, forward-looking action.
Yes. If you are planning to take your own life at 10:30 p.m., which is the time typed on the suicide note, why on earth do you speak to an operator to set an alarm for the next morning?
It makes absolutely zero sense. It's the one detail that refuses to fit the neat bureaucratic formula.
It's the loose thread.
Yeah, and this single, jagged piece of evidence highlights the core conflict of the story. Maston's instinct for political survival versus Smiley's compulsive, almost destructive need for the actual truth. Smiley just cannot let the discrepancy go.
So, defying Maston's orders, he decides to visit Fenton's widow. And this visit is the thread that unravels the entire conspiracy. Smiley meets Elsa Fenton.
And she is a fascinating character.
The source material paints a striking, haunting portrait of her. She is a frail, fierce Jewish refugee and a concentration camp survivor. And the way she articulates her trauma to Smiley is just profound. She tells him, "The children of my grief are dead."
She is a woman who has endured the absolute worst atrocities of human history. Her baseline reality is just survival. So when Smiley gently asks her about that 8:30 a.m. wake-up call, Elsa immediately lies.
Right.
She claims she is simply absent-minded and that she had called the operator to set the alarm for herself.
But earlier in that exact same conversation, Elsa told Smiley that she barely sleeps. She suffers from chronic insomnia. So Smiley realizes instantly that Elsa isn't just lying, she's panicked. Her story doesn't hold up to even mild scrutiny.
And her panic sets off a deadly chain reaction. Because as soon as Smiley leaves her home, Elsa contacts her handler to warn them that British intelligence is asking the wrong questions.
Which is a huge mistake.
Huge. It triggers an immediate violent response from the spy ring to protect themselves. Smiley goes to Battersea to trace a suspicious car that was parked outside his house, and he's brutally beaten nearly to death by a blonde man.
Who we later learn is Munt, this ruthless East German agent.
Yeah, and the innocent garage owner who rented the car to Munt, a guy named Adam Scarr, is later found drowned in the Thames.
The violence escalates incredibly fast, shifting the story from a quiet bureaucratic puzzle into a lethal physical threat. While Smiley is recovering in the hospital, his allies Inspector Mendel and Peter Gillam discover Elsa's routine.
Right, they start tailing her.
Yeah, and twice a month, she attends the Weybridge Repertory Theater. She leaves a music case in the cloakroom, and exchanges tickets with that same blonde man, Munt.
What Mendel and Gloom uncover is a classic espionage technique known as a dead drop. For those unfamiliar with the tradecraft, a dead drop isn't just handing a briefcase to someone in a dark alley.
Right, it's way more subtle than that.
Exactly. It's a mechanism born of extreme paranoia. You leave a physical item, in this case, the music case full of stolen intelligence, in a predetermined blind spot. Hours later, your handler picks it up.
You never actually see each other.
You never see each other, never speak, and you break the chain of surveillance. It minimizes the risk exposure and maximizes plausible deniability.
They discover she's leaving this music case in the cloakroom. And to me, here's where it gets really interesting, because she clearly isn't just a grieving widow.
No, not at all.
Looking at this elaborate, highly disciplined dead drop routine, it's hard to see Elsa simply as a victim of her past, whose grief is being exploited. I mean, it feels almost like she's weaponizing her own trauma.
How do you mean?
She uses her identity as a frail camp survivor, as a shield to manipulate Smiley and deflect suspicion, while actively committing treason.
It's tempting to view her actions as pure, calculated manipulation for sure. But if we look at her history in the camps, her motivation isn't power or malice, it's pure survival.
Right.
Elsa's worldview was forged in the absolute darkest fires of humanity. She deeply distrusts ideology. She has seen firsthand what happens when powerful men try to enforce formulas or utopian dreams onto society.
She explicitly tells Smiley she just wanted a quiet life,
Right.
to care for Samuel.
Exactly. But Samuel was the one driven by ideological dreams, and those dreams dragged them both into this deadly game. She manipulates to survive and to protect the husband she loves, even when she fundamentally despises the espionage work he brought to their doorstep.
And that takes us to the staggering revelation Smiley pieces together from his hospital bed. As he connects the clues, he realizes he's been looking into a funhouse mirror. Everything he assumed he saw was completely inverted.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Samuel Fenton wasn't the active spy. Elsa was.
Elsa was the one efficiently running the dead drops at the theater with the music case. She was the one with the operational discipline to actually execute the tradecraft.
Meanwhile, Samuel, the man with the communist past who was formally accused, was actually losing his nerve. He wasn't stealing state secrets. The files he was bringing home from the Foreign Office were completely useless, unclassified documents.
Right. He was bringing them home because he suspected his wife was spying, and he was desperately trying to figure out what she was doing and how to stop her.
The layers of deception are just astonishing. Samuel wrote that anonymous letter denouncing himself.
Which is the ultimate tragic irony.
It really is. I mean, why go through this elaborate self-sabotage? Why write an anonymous letter to your own security department instead of just confronting your wife?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes perfect tragic sense. Because Samuel was completely trapped between his political guilt and his marital love. He wanted to stop the treason, but he couldn't bear to destroy his wife directly by turning her in to the authorities.
Oh, wow. So writing the letter, denouncing himself, was a cry for help.
Exactly. It was a convoluted excuse to get an interview with a security officer like Smiley, hoping he could subtly guide British intelligence to uncover the ring without having to be the one who pulled the trigger on his own wife.
But his hesitation proves fatal. Because the puppet master controlling Elsa and the assassin Munt is a man named Dieter Frey.
Yes.
And Dieter isn't just some faceless East German spy master. During the Second World War, Dieter was George Smiley's own brilliant, most trusted agent back in Germany.
They were incredibly close.
Yeah, and Dieter saw Smiley and Samuel Fenton talking in St. James's Park that day.
Right, and Dieter operates in absolute ruthless ideological terms. He has no room for nuance. So when he saw Samuel with a British intelligence officer, he didn't wonder if Samuel was conflicted. He immediately assumed Fenton was actively betraying their network.
So Dieter ordered Munt to murder Samuel and forge the suicide note. I mean, the spy ring essentially destroys itself out of sheer, blinding paranoia.
It really does.
Samuel's hesitant, deeply human conflict violently clashed with Dieter's absolute ruthless ideology. The result was the murder of Samuel, the very man who had compromised his own life to help build their utopian new world.
At the exact moment Samuel had finally achieved a high-level job where he could have been genuinely useful to them, their own fear made them eliminate him.
The irony is just suffocating.
Yeah.
And it builds to this incredible, tragic final act. Smiley realizes Dieter is the one pulling the strings. To break the stalemate, Smiley forces Dieter out of hiding by sending Elsa a postcard of a church from Highgate.
It's a total bluff, implying her cover is blown, but it works perfectly.
It prompts a final, desperate meeting between Elsa and Dieter at the Sheridan Theater.
Yeah, and Dieter realizes during the play that he's been lured into a trap. He knows Elsa is the only living person who can connect him directly to Samuel's murder.
So right there in the dark theater, under the cover of the play's dialogue, he brutally strangles Elsa in her seat. Then he just slips out and flees into the thick London fog.
Which sets the stage for the climax on Battersea Bridge. Smiley and Inspector Mendel chase Dieter through the blinding fog. Mendel gets knocked down in the pursuit, leaving just Smiley and Dieter.
Two men who, years ago, trusted each other with their very lives, now hunting each other in the dark.
It's incredible.
They grapple on the slippery wooden boards of the bridge. And this is the moment where the psychological weight of the entire story crashes down. During the struggle, Dieter pulls a gun. He has Smiley dead to rights, but he doesn't pull the trigger.
He doesn't.
For a split second, Dieter looks at Smiley, remembers their past friendship, and he hesitates. His humanity overrides his ideology, just for a moment.
But Smiley does not hesitate. Driven by a protective, almost frantic, animalistic rage, Smiley fights back violently. He shoves his former friend backward, pushing Dieter over the railing and into the freezing black waters of the Thames, sending him to his death.
Think about the absolute devastation of that moment. Dieter, the ruthless killer, the man who casually ordered Fennon's death and strangled Elsa with his bare hands, found his humanity at the very last second. He couldn't shoot his old mentor.
Right.
But Smiley, the civilized rationalist, the man who hated the violence and falseness of his profession, fought like a beast and murdered the man he once trained. As Smiley bitterly reflects later, who was then the gentleman.
It perfectly captures the moral rot at the heart of the Cold War. The political systems these men and women serve demand total, unwavering sacrifice. And the very first thing to be sacrificed on the altar of the state is always their fundamental humanity.
Which makes the aftermath so hollow. There is no triumphant public victory. Maston, true to his nature as the head eunuch, covers the whole violent affair up. No public trial, no exposure to the spy ring.
Yeah.
He just wants to avoid political embarrassment.
They even offer Smiley a promotion for his quiet, efficient disposal of the problem.
A promotion he refuses. He cannot stomach the bureaucracy that forced him into that moment on the bridge. Instead, he gets on a plane and flies to Zurich, responding to a letter from his estranged wife, Anne.
The woman who publicly humiliated him.
Yeah. It strips away all the James Bond glory of spycraft, leaving nothing but human wreckage. You have people like Elsa, who just wanted peace and quiet after surviving the unimaginable horrors of the camps. You have Samuel, who wanted a political utopia and was crushed by his own conscience.
And Dieter, who wanted honor and action, but found it only in his final, fatal hesitation.
They all end up as murderers and casualties, swallowed by the fog.
Smiley returning to Anne is really the final piece of the psychological puzzle. He goes back to the woman who betrayed him because, in the end, that deeply flawed, painful relationship is the only genuine human connection he has left in a world built entirely on lies.
It leaves us with this haunting final image from your sources. George Smiley on a midnight plane to Zurich, looking out the window at the starlit sky, seeing a glimpse of eternity between two worlds. The quiet, unassuming man carrying the ghost of the friend he killed.
It's a powerful place to leave him.
It really is.
Yeah.
As we close the book on this deep dive, I want to leave you, our listener, with a few questions to mull over on your own. When you strip away the politics, the state secrets, and the ideological dreams, what is the real human cost of living a lie?
It's a heavy question.
It is. If you were in Smiley's shoes on that foggy bridge, grappling in the dark with someone who once trusted you with their life, would you have pushed them into the freezing water? And ultimately, as that heavy fog rolls back off the River Thames, who really lost their humanity that night,